Hello, and thanks for joining us for this episode of the 2022 Cocodona podcast series hosted by Aravaipa Racing team member Brianna Grigsby. Brianna, who will be running Cocodona this year for the first time, will be joined by Annie Hughes, Morgan Weinberg, and Kylie Aldes. Annie Hughes is a Leadville-based ultra runner who has been running ultramarathons since 2019. Annie is coming off of big wins at Leadville 100, Moab 240, and the Coldwater Rumble 100 mile, and will be towing the line at this year's Cocodona 250. Kylie Aldes is a running coach with Desert to Peak Coaching, an ultramarathon runner based out of Tucson, Arizona. Kylie has completed numerous ultramarathons and trail races, including Run Rabbit Run 100 mile, Leadville 100 mile, and Black Canyon 100K. Kylie is coming off of a strong finish at Crown King, as well as a rim to rim to rim training run in the Grand Canyon as preparation for this year's Cocodona 250. Morgan Weinberg is the Aravaipa, Colorado race director, an ultra runner and mountain biker based out of Colorado Springs. Morgan has completed multiple ultramarathons, including Black Canyon 100K and the Silver Rush 50 mile in Leadville. Most recently, Morgan completed the Crown King Scramble and then ran from Crown King to Prescott the following day in preparation for her effort at this year's Cocodona 250.
Thanks for joining, ladies. I'm excited to chat with all of you about Cocodona 250, which has definitely been at the forefront of my mind almost every waking moment these days. So I wanted to start out with asking you why you decided to run Cocodona 250. And we'll start with you, Kylie. What made you decide to run Cocodona?
So I've been going through a lot of personal changes, changes in my personal life right now. And this race is all a part of this self-discovery healing journey that I'm on. And I'm just really excited to spend a lot of hours out on the trails without distractions from everyday life, just to be able to reflect and feel. And I have aspirations to eventually do the Arizona Trail or the Colorado Trail. So I feel like this is the next step. And I'm just ready to be broken down into a very raw form in order to build myself back up as part of this new healing journey that I'm on.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like we're all kind of be broken down into somewhat of a raw form. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting experience. What about you, Morgan?
Yeah, so
why did you decide to run Cocodona?
Sure. So clearly from my introduction, I haven't even done a 100 miler. So I'm really not sure why I thought the natural next step would be a 250. But when I started working with Aravaipa last year, I was at the Iron King aid station mile 94. I think that's what it's called. I obviously still don't know all the aid station names. Anyways, seeing runners come through, just being totally trashed at that point and realizing that they still had more than half of the race to go was kind of crazy. And then being able to be at the finish line and watching these runners just go through the thick of it over the next 150 miles and somehow be able to gut it out and make it to the finish line was just so incredible and inspiring. And yeah, I don't know. It was just really cool to see. And so I thought it would be a really fun experience to do as well.
Awesome. Annie, what about you? Why did you decide to run Cocodona?
Well, after the Moab 240, I don't know, I just love the 200s. It's just such a fun adventure. And I thought Cocodona was pretty cool because it's like 10 miles further than that. So, and yeah, I was thinking about doing Tahoe, but there was a lottery to get in, and I got put on the wait list and thought I didn't get in. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to sign up for Cocodona because there's no lottery. And then it turned out I did get into Tahoe. So that was the whole thing. But yeah, now I'm like set to go for Cocodona. And I had never heard of the race until it was like starting to happen last year. And I was like, whoa, this is so cool. I haven't heard about this. And yeah, I'm not sure how I missed that. But yeah, it was really fun to follow and made me excited to do it someday. So I'm excited to do it this year.
Yeah, well, last year was the inaugural year, so maybe that's why you haven't heard it before. But yeah, it was definitely super fun to follow along. I know for me, like having an injury 2 weeks before the race, I had a lot of FOMO following the race last year, and so I'm super excited to be able to run it this year. Knock on wood that I don't get any injuries 2 weeks out on the race this year. So I want to hop into asking you about what your training has looked like for the race. So Morgan, do you want to start us off on this one? What's your training been like?
Oh geez. Okay. Yeah, I'm probably severely undertrained for something like this, but I've been hitting like 60, 70 mile weeks. One thing I added in was some strength training, which I was pretty lazy on before. I was always the first thing to go, so I've paid a lot of attention to that. I've actually been going to an actual weightlifting gym with a weightlifting coach. And so I felt like that's really been helping me. But I've been focusing more on just strong hiking and a lot of climbing versus like quick miles. So I don't have a ton of extra time to be able to get super high mile weeks. So I've been trying to make the most out of the time that I have. So I do feel fitter than I have ever felt before. But obviously the comparison game is a hard one when looking at other people's training. But yeah, I feel pretty fit with what I've been doing.
Yeah, and everyone is just so different too with what kind of mileage works best for them. You know, I feel like some people really flourish at the high mileage and others do better at lower mileage. So, but it sounds like you got a pretty strong plan with in terms of a lot of vert and then the strength training too. How about you, Annie?
Oh,
what's your training look like?
I'm really interested to see how this goes because I did Moab 240 at the very end of my season. That was my last race. And so I just had all this time to recover and where I won't have all that time after, because it's my first race of the season or like one of my first races. So, yeah, I'm interested to see how that goes because I just had a long recovery period and then did a 100-miler in January just to kind of kickstart the training. And then that was the cold water rumble. And then just tried to come back pretty quick from that and put in, I usually run like 100 miles a week. So I was doing that for like a month. And then I did a 24-hour run on my 24th birthday as like a training run, like fun run. And I did 117 miles and then had a couple easy weeks. And then, this past week I was able to get a really good week of training in Moab. And that was like my highest mileage week of like just training wise. So I got 120 miles. But yeah, I think the biggest thing that I'm not like very prepared for is the heat, like just training in Leadville all winter. So I was hoping Moab would be a little bit warmer so I could get some experience with that. But it was like, I was never like hot. It was definitely warmer than Leadville. It was definitely like shorts and a t-shirt, but I was never like really hot. So I think that'll be the biggest challenge for me.
Are you planning to do any sort of heat acclimatization, like with a sauna?
Yeah, I did go to a sauna. We don't have like the best gym in Leadville, so I have to drive like 40 minutes to get to a gym, and they have a sauna there. So I'm just doing that like once a week, but I don't know how much that's actually helping. So I feel like it'll just be kind of like I'll just deal with this as it happens kind of thing.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of things we're gonna have to wing out there. So, yeah. Morgan, how about you being from Colorado? Are you doing any heat training at all or heat acclimatization?
Yeah, so I have been doing the sauna as well. Joined a gym just to use the sauna. So I've been trying to do that a few times a week. And then I went down to Arizona for Crown King a couple weeks ago and then followed that with the Crown King to Prescott portion of the course. So tried to get in as much heat as I could there. But yeah, it's been hard with the colder winter. I'm worried about the heat as well.
Kylie, what about you? How has your training been?
So after Black Canyon, I actually started with a new coach, And he's really been crucial just in this whole training and this build up to Cocodona. He had to really reel me back in because, and I shared this with you, Brianna, but I had a lot of big aspirations and unnecessary desires with this training block. So I played it actually super smart. And the last 4 weeks, I've done a big effort every weekend. I did Micah Mountain here in Tucson, which is a pretty big one. I know, Brianna, you were at that. And then followed it up by Crown King Scramble that Morgan was at as well, 50K. And then I did the training run, the Aravaipa training run, which was Black Canyon City to Crown King. And then just this past weekend, I did a rim to rim to rim. And then just throughout the week, I was really just maintaining, but I recovered and bounced back really quickly from each of those big efforts. And it was the fittest I ever felt in the canyon this past weekend. So I'm really happy about that, and definitely feel like I have been focusing more on climbing and just power hiking and having so much weight on my back. Cause especially that first section carrying, 4 to 5 liters, it's a lot of weight. So I've been just practicing with the gear that I'm planning to use. And yeah, we'll see what comes race day. It's definitely going to be hot. And luckily I do have that advantage being here in Tucson, but there's always going to be unexpected things. So you got to plan for the unexpected.
Yeah. Are you adding in, I mean, I know you and I live in Tucson, but are you adding in any sauna or like heat things in addition to just like running outside?
Yeah, I've been same like Morgan. I joined a gym just for the sauna, so I've been incorporating that, and it's been nice. Yeah, so I try to do that like 3 times a week. And hot yoga. Hot yoga's been amazing just
Cool.
to help recover.
Yeah, so my gym actually has a yin yoga class that happens in an infrared sauna room. So I just discovered that last week, and it was pretty exciting. So I think I might have to go back for more of that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Let's jump into talking about race strategy. If you thought about like what your strategy is going to be for the race. Annie, I'll let you go first since you have the experience with the 200 plus mile distance.
I think the hardest part for me with the 200s is just the sleep deprivation. Because I don't know, it's not really that much more painful than 100. It just like lasts longer. And yeah, just going through multiple nights without sleep is pretty difficult. But I found like because I've done one other effort that was 160 miles, but it took me 61 hours. It was just like this really mountainous loop. And that was 2 nights without sleep. And it really hit me on the first night. And then it was kind of the same thing with Moab. I just was so sleepy on the first night and like had to take a 30-minute nap at an aid station and like a ton of trail naps. And it just like wasn't really doing anything. And then the second night I felt great and like made up all this time. And yeah, so every 60 plus hour experience I've had, it's been the first night. So I kind of worked in like my longer aid station stops to be in that first night in case that happens again. So yeah, just kind of planning for that a little bit more, because going into Moab, I was like, oh, maybe that was just a fluky thing. It'll probably be different this time. And then it happened again. So yeah, just kind of planning for that.
Yeah, and that first stretch is pretty tough. Talking to the women yesterday when we recorded the women that have run it before, I think kind of the consensus was that everybody didn't sleep a lot there and maybe wished that they had a little bit more. So I think that's a really smart plan. And when I asked Kylie this question too, I mean, I know she did the training run a couple weeks ago of the first section of the course from the start to Crown King. And she'll be able to give us some insights there about what that section looked like. But yeah, it's a tough section and it takes a long time. So I think that's definitely a smart strategy. Morgan, how about you?
My strategy is to try not to die. No, but I think I want to be really smart on the first day. Expecting that to be really difficult. And just being able to take my time and get to Crown King and be able to refresh and take some time there. I'm getting some feedback.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys can hear me okay.
Yeah, I can hear you. It's just a little, like
Okay.
a little bit of a delay. I can hear you fine.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So I've never done anything where I've had to sleep on course before. So because I'm doing this race with my friend Tim, we're kind of at the mercy of each other and how we're doing on the course together. So we've had conversations that neither of us want to get super sleep deprived. Obviously, we're all going to be sleep deprived at some point, but we want to do our best to stay on top of that. So we're planning on 10-minute trail naps when necessary, but really trying to make it to sleep stations and take 3 hours to get refreshed. We're not necessarily front of the pack runners, so we're going to be taking our time and just trying to be able to eat and drink and keep moving consistently along the way. So race strategy, I don't really know what to expect, but want to be able to keep moving and not completely murder myself in the first 37 miles.
Very smart. Kylie, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, everyone keeps talking about that first section, and I was pretty blown away on how difficult it is. I had originally thought, maybe 8 to 10 hours to get to Crown King, and it took me a little over 11. And so I'm definitely going to take it super conservative. And if it takes me 12 hours, it takes me 12 hours. And so, yeah, definitely going to go out super conservative. I ran out of water during that section, so I'm planning to bring at least another liter, which again will be more weight on your back. So I just know it'll take a little bit longer. And then my plan is my typical race strategy is to be in and out of aid stations, and probably like most of us. But for this race, I'm really taking those aid stations as a time to just like refresh and take care of problems before they become big problems. So making sure that we're changing socks and putting more squirrel's nut butter and changing shoes. And my plan is to kind of refresh every day. So put on a new outfit and spend a few minutes to just brush my teeth and wipe my face. And I think that's going to really help just start a new day off and not blend them all together. So I'm planning to spend a little bit more time at the aid stations. And my biggest thing with my race strategy is really just, for me, I think the mental grind is going to be really hard. So I just am trying to remember my why, and I'll have a mantra that I'll probably just repeat over and over and over again the whole time. And hopefully that'll be enough to keep me going.
What do you want to share what your mantra is, or do you have it yet? If you don't want to share it, that's okay.
Not yet. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but my favorite mantra is Amanda Basham's like relentless progress forward. Like one step is going to be one step closer to that finish line. So it'll probably be something like that.
Awesome. Jumping back to the water, Kylie, you mentioned that you're planning to take a liter more than you took on that training run. How much did you take on the training run, and how much are you planning to take on the actual race day?
That'll definitely be dependent on if there's a water stop between those two aid stations. I know the Aravaipa crew is working hard to make that happen, but I brought 3.5 liters. I thought I had 4, but I realized my bladder is only 1.5 liters. So I ran out with about 8 miles to go. I was lucky for the other runners that this guy literally saved my butt out there and gave me the rest of one of his soft flasks. So my plan is to bring 2 bladders and have one empty and fill that up at the Cottonwood aid station. So have 3 liters in a bladder and then another 1 or 2 liters just based off if we have that extra aid station. But definitely don't underestimate how much water you're going to need because those climbs are just relentless. And I'm a camel, so I suck it down quick. And I'm also planning to put Tailwind in my bladder just to have some more liquid calories and then keep the soft flasks for pure water probably is what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I'm kind of doing the same thing with the Goo Roctane drink mix in my bladder. Last word that I heard is that we are having a water drop station at like mile 20 with a limit of like 1 liter per person because it's going to have to be hiked in. So
that's amazing news.
Hopefully be an extra liter. Yeah. Yeah. And you kind of already started us into like nutrition strategy a little bit with talking about the Tailwind that you're planning to take in your bladder or in your flasks. So let's jump into that next. What's everybody thinking for nutrition strategy? Do you have a plan? What's that look like? Annie, do you want to go first on this one?
Oh, sure. So I use Tailwind as like one of my primary sources of nutrition, just because it's easy to drink your calories and yeah, it has kind of everything you need in it, like the salt and electrolytes and calories. So yeah, it's just an easy way to fuel while you're in between sections. But when I get to the aid station, I always try to eat something like real. And in 100 milers, I kind of skimp out on that and just kind of stick to gels. But for 200s, I like to have like some ramen or like a sandwich, even like just something that like really sticks with you. Because I think the aid stations are a little bit closer together for this race than they were for Moab 240. And I was like pretty hungry when I get to an aid station in Moab and like would eat like almost a full-on meal. So I think and then I also use like Spring Energy and things like that in between as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the awesome sauce.
That's the one I can always get down, like no matter what. Like all the other ones sound bad, but I can always get an awesome sauce down. You have to be careful though, because I didn't brush my teeth at Moab 240, and I just like wasn't thinking about it, and I ended up getting like all these canker sores like all over my tongue, and it hurt really bad to like eat a gel or like anything sweet. And so that made the last like 40 miles really difficult to eat. So yeah, just making sure you're like brushing your teeth and stuff.
Good takeaway. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Something I wouldn't have thought about,
Yeah, I didn't think about it either.
Morgan, like, how about you?
Yeah, thank you. I'm getting a lot of good education from being on here from Annie and Kylie. But so yeah, I am notorious for horrible fueling, which is probably why I have not yet checked 100 miler off of the list, because I end up getting sick in almost every race that I've done. I'm usually throwing up at some point. So I've been working really hard on that to try to stay hydrated, because I think that's my biggest issue, is that I don't drink enough water regularly, and then during races it just makes the problem so much worse. So yes, I'm trying to hydrate and fuel early and often, and actually drink the 5 liters of water in the first 37 miles. So when I get to Crown King, I am able to eat something. But I use Tailwind as much as possible. The taste of any electrolyte mix for me is like instant nausea, just like the taste of it hitting my tongue. So I've been trying to practice like drinking the flavored things. It's not going super well, but hopefully I can get enough down to to make it work. And then I also use Spring Energy when it comes to gels. Awesome sauce for sure. That's pretty much the only one when I'm throwing up that I can still get down. And then I've been practicing eating real food on all my long runs. So I've been packing like hummus and avocado wraps and sandwiches and stuff. Because again, once I get dehydrated, my mouth just gets like totally gummy, and then I'm not able to actually eat anything, and then it's a downhill spiral. So yeah, it's a work in progress, but I have somewhat of a plan for that for this one.
How about you, Kylie?
I mean, similar to Annie and Morgan, I'm a Tailwind and Spring Energy girl as well. So I will be doing both of those. And I'm planning to do that more like on the trails, and then really just take in full meals or as much as I can at the aid stations. I'm super excited for all the hard work that the Aravaipa staff has put into, just making these like awesome meals at all of the aid stations. So I plan on taking advantage of that. And then I think my secret weapon is going to be birthday cake, because the race starts on my birthday. So my crew will have a birthday cake at Crown King. So you all will have to get a slice at Crown King. So that's going to be the secret.
Do we all get to celebrate?
I just know it.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yep. We're going to have White Claws and cake at Crown King.
That's so cool.
I think we should sing happy birthday. I think we should sing happy birthday to you as we're starting too. That would be super fun.
Yeah.
Cool. So we're going to be celebrating Kylie's birthday out there. Awesome. Another thing that I will mention too is while we're on the topic of nutrition, and I know you ladies are using Tailwind, but just in general for people out there, not to forget about their salt, especially in the desert, where you're going to be sweating a lot. And because it's so dry out here, you don't always realize how much you're sweating and how much salt you're losing, because it just like instantly evaporates. I know for me, when I finish a run, I usually have salt crystallized all over my entire body and my pack and my clothes. And so salt is definitely an important thing to factor in. Let's jump into sleep. And I know Annie kind of already talked about planning to take a little bit longer toward the beginning of the race on sleep. Morgan, what are you thinking about for sleep strategy?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned this before too, so I won't talk too much about it. But I'm doing it with Tim, my friend. So we kind of have to sleep when the other one wants to sleep. But we're thinking like 10-minute trail naps, and then getting solid like 3-hour blocks of sleep whenever there's a good sleep station that lines up with how we feel. So that's pretty much it. I think we don't feel Prescott. But that might be over ambitious. So we'll see.
Anything else you want to add, Annie, to what you already talked about regarding sleep? Do you think you're going to sleep later on in the race too, or just going to kind of feel it out?
Yeah, I'm going to kind of feel it out. I'm just kind of going off my past experiences, but it could be totally different. So I basically just planned in like an hour and a half of total sleep that I'm going to probably use the first night, and then just like try to go the rest of the race without it. But yeah, I don't know. I usually just do like 2 or 3 minute naps. That's just kind of enough to like refresh and keep going. But yeah, I feel like also towards the second and third night, I'm just so like, my body's just like amped up, and it's like, okay, this is what we're doing. And you can kind of like feel like you're getting somewhere at that point. Whereas like the first night, I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's just a mental thing of like, oh my gosh, I still have like so much more to go, like many like more nights, and like how am I gonna get through all that? So I don't know if it's just a mental thing of like being kind of overwhelmed with how much you have left. So
Kylie, how about you? Have you thought about sleep and what you're going to do?
Yeah, I'm planning to do like 4 bigger sleep blocks. So Prescott, Jerome, Sedona, and Fort Hill is kind of what I'm thinking. But again, who knows what is going to happen? So I'm hoping to get to Prescott before I take a big nap, and then just like everyone else, take trail naps. My friend John did Moab last year, and he's helping crew me this year. And he talked like Annie did about just the 3 to 5 minute trail naps are a huge game changer and super refreshing, even though it doesn't sound like it. So I'm, as soon as I start getting super sleepy on the trail, that's going to be my plan, is just to lay down for a few minutes. But I'm hoping not to do that until I get a pacer, because I don't want to oversleep or, wake up and be lost or out of it or anything. So hopefully not start sleeping until Prescott at least.
Awesome. Yeah, I've been amazed just at how much 15 minutes can make a difference. I mean, the other day I took a nap and I ended up like hoping to sleep an hour, but I woke up 15 minutes later and I felt like it had been hours, and I was so refreshed. And so I'm hoping that'll also be the case during the race, but we'll see. Are any of you at all worried about being able to fall asleep? Because that's something I'm a little bit worried about, is whether I'm just going to be laying there trying to fall asleep and just being too amped up, like Annie was saying, to be able to fall asleep.
I think that's
Do you think that'll be an issue for you, Kylie?
I think that's Oh, sorry.
No, go for it, Annie.
I was just gonna say, I think
Go
that's
for it.
really where the trail naps like come into play, because you just wait until you're like literally falling asleep like while you're running, and then you can just like collapse on the trail and like instantly pass out. So I feel like that's kind of the best way to like just know you're gonna fall asleep. But I ended up getting to an aid station and was just like absolutely exhausted, and my pacer had me take a 30-minute nap there, and I was able to pass out like right away. But yeah, I guess just if I was just laying there like not being able to sleep, I would just get up and keep going, because you're just wasting time. So
Right. Makes sense. Kylie, Morgan, were you worried about being able to fall asleep, or any the other thing is that I thought about is any products that you might want to use, like any herbal things or melatonin or anything like that, teas to help with falling asleep?
Yeah, so I'm a little worried just because
Any
I'm
plan
like
for
paired
that?
up with Tim that our sleep won't align. So like if he needs to sleep, I'm worried that I'll be wired and want to keep going, and then vice versa. And I'm also not a good like napper. I've never taken naps. So I mean, I know I'll be exhausted enough to just fall asleep, but I'm worried about having to force it when the other person needs it, and the other way around. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm not going to rely on any supplements, because knowing me, it would just flip myself upside down, and then I'd probably get sick from taking something. Who knows? So just going to let the natural path of exhaustion take course.
Yeah, same for me. I'm just gonna let it happen. And like Annie said, if I'm trying to lay there and I'm not falling asleep, I'm just gonna get up and go and wait till that exhaustion hits me. So we'll see what happens.
I wanted to ask you, Annie, about, so of the four of us, you are the only one who has experience with this distance. So I was hoping that maybe you could kind of jump in with what advice do you have just in general, and it can be about anything, for 200 plus mile races, things that we should keep in mind.
Oh, I really think the biggest difference is I just kind of look at it as like this big mountain or like desert adventure. Because I don't know, it goes by very slowly. And sometimes it's hard to feel like you're making progress. Like in a 100-miler, I feel like it's easy to be like, okay, I'm getting somewhere. Like you're feeling pretty awful at 70 miles, but it's like I can make it 30 more miles. but it's like with the 200 plus, like you, yeah, it just keeps going and going and going. Like, it's hard to feel like you're kind of getting somewhere at times, especially when the course is difficult or like the terrain and you're just not making much progress. So I just think kind of looking at it as like, I'm doing this big adventure kind of helps, and just focusing on each section. Like I just need to get to this point, which is kind of the same for 100 miler. Also kind of helps break it down and make it feel like just breaking it up into smaller goals, and then eventually you get there. So not being too overwhelmed with like the end goal, because it is far ways. So
maybe not thinking about the fact that you still have 200 and plus miles to go when you hit Crown King.
yeah.
So I heard, or I read in a race report from someone who ran Cocodona last year, some advice that I thought was actually really good, that I wanted to share. And you can see if you agree with this, Annie, having done the distance. But what he said is that someone told him, if you're thinking about dropping out, make yourself take a nap first and then reevaluate. So he had come across a runner on course last year who was planning to drop out, and he told him, hey, you know, why don't you try taking a nap first? And it ended up, the guy took his advice and he ended up finishing the race. So I thought that was like a really good piece of advice too, is to not decide to DNF until you've had like a good nap, have a good meal, reevaluate, and see if you still want to DNF. Do you think that that's good advice?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think, yeah, food always helps. I think sometimes like you just, when you're further into the race, it's like hard to remember to eat. And so you can start to feel pretty awful if you're just getting behind on that. And so eating something can help a lot. But I don't know. It's never really like, it never crossed my mind once to DNF at 240 or like really any of the races I've done, just because I go into it like I'm finishing this no matter what. Like that decision has already been made. So it's like just going into it like, yeah, that's not an option basically, unless it's a medical emergency kind of thing. But yeah.
Right. Amazing. So it sounds like you have a pretty strong mental game going into it.
Yeah.
And just out of curiosity, I know you mentioned being in the lottery and thinking you didn't get into Tahoe. Are you also running Tahoe 200 this year?
No, I'm not. I signed up for Cocadona, and then I was like, I don't think I could probably do both, but I just wouldn't be able to do them both like well. And I just really wanted to do, and I also just want to have like a good season after Cocodona. So, because there's still a lot of, the season left. So it's like, I think it would just be smart to do 200 this year.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't think there's any way I could do 200s in a year. One more question that I'm just curious about from your experience with the distance is like, how long did it take you to recover after Moab 240?
That's what I'm really interested because I didn't have any more races after. Like that was my last race of the season, so I had like all the time to recover. And I would say I was back like running a little bit again, like a week later. But I would say like I could do shorter runs and feel good. But it was like the endurance that I just kind of had this like deep fatigue. And I was also just like sleeping so much for like a month or two afterwards. Like I would get at least like 10 hours a night and feel like I still needed to sleep more. So yeah, just kind of weird things like that. But my body like came back pretty easily. Like I didn't have any aches or anything. It was just more of like a fatigue.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I hope I recover as well as you did. So I wanted to end off with with having us go through and ask each of you what you're most excited for about Cocodona and what you are most nervous about. So Kylie, can we start with you on this one?
Yeah. I think the thing I'm most excited about is honestly just the course. It's amazing and it's so different. Every section is just going to be completely different. And, I was watching the Jamil and Eric Sinsman's video last night with the new section coming off Mingus, coming off Mingus, I think. And it's just like, it's all so different. And then to go into Sedona and then to hit Eldon and, Flagstaff. And so I'm just super excited for the course. And to be able to see that, the Bradshaws and everything. And I'm most nervous, like Annie was talking about earlier, for the sleep deprivation and also the hallucinations. Both my hundreds, I've hallucinated pretty bad. And that was just in 100. So I'm a little nervous for what 250 miles is going to bring. So I'm a little nervous for both of those. For sure. And I just what's going to happen after. I'm planning to finish, sometime Friday. So that's 4 nights. And it'll be interesting to see what your body's like after 4 nights of no sleep. So definitely nervous for that.
Yeah. I agree with you on the race course. I mean, Arizona is just so diverse, such a diverse state. And I think it's going to be cool to see such a big portion of it being a point-to-point race. And yeah, the sleep deprivation is going to be definitely interesting. Annie, did you have any hallucinations during Moab?
Yeah, I really didn't have anything until the 3rd night, which was the night I was finishing. I finished at like 3 a.m. on the 3rd night. And the last section of Moab 240 is like this really famous mountain biking trail. It was 18 miles and just like really techy and like a lot of slick rock and just like weird rock formations. And I had my pacer running in front of me because I was like, I can't think about like where I'm going right now. Like I just need to follow you. Like I can't think about like trying to find the course. And so I was following him and it looked like he was running into all of these weird buildings. I was like, where is he going? Like, we can't go in there. And then there was one point, this was kind of a creepy one, but he got pretty far ahead of me. And then I went through this one section where there were like a lot of bushes and I saw like people in the bushes and like just a bunch of like junk on the side of the trail and like shopping carts. And I thought it was like a big homeless camp. And I was like, oh my gosh, someone's gonna like grab me and in the homeless camp. And then the last one was just like my depth perception was off and there was a section of slick rock and then there were 2 puddles in the slick rock and then there was like a section of exposed rock in between. And so it was like it looked like a little like rock bridge to me. And then like the 2 puddles just looked like holes that go into the abyss. And I just stopped at the bridge and I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't know if I can go across this. Like, and then I realized it was just puddles. I was like, oh, it's okay. But yeah, it's just weird what your mind does when you're that sleep deprived. And I also had like really vivid deja vu. Like I felt like I'd been there before with that pacer who I didn't know super well and like had never been on that trail or anything before. So but yeah, I was like convinced that I had been there before having that conversation with that person. So it's just really strange.
Interesting. Yeah, the brain is so interesting. What do you think you're most excited for and what are you most nervous about?
I'm really excited. I'm just excited to be a part of this race, like the 2nd year it's ever been put on. I think it's going to get really big in the next few years. And I'm just excited to see that happen and see these 200-mile races like become more competitive and more popular. And 200 is the new 100, which is cool. And I'm also I haven't spent a ton of time in Arizona. So like Kylie, I'm just really excited to experience like all of the diverse landscapes and terrain that we get to go through. And it's just really amazing to be able to experience that all on foot. I think that's really special about these races is, yeah, you're experiencing it all with the power of your feet.
Do you have anything that you're most nervous about?
Oh yeah, I'm most nervous. I'm always nervous to like get off course and have to like add on. So I'm kind of nervous about route finding. That's like something I'm always like kind of concerned about going into races. And then because my first 100-miler, I got off the course and like ran 10 extra miles. So like ever since then, I've just been super paranoid about like staying on course. And yeah, that's where pacers are really helpful because it's easy to like not know where you are when you're that sleep deprived. So that and then the heat I'm a little nervous for.
Yeah, we definitely don't want any extra mileage in the 250 plus mile race. I think that's enough. Morgan, how about you? What are you most excited for and what are you most nervous about?
Wow, my nervous list is very long, but I'll start with what I'm excited for. So my friend Tim, he has said he's nearing the end of his ultra running days. And so I'm just really excited to kind of experience his last year of huge races with him. He kind of was my mentor getting into ultra running. And so getting to do something like this with him is really cool. It's going to make it really brutal, where they call us like the old married trail couple, because we fight a lot and we're both very stubborn, but we both, care deeply about each other. So I'm excited to see like how we can both be in the depths of our despair and still stick together and help each other kind of get to the end together. So I've never done a race with another person. I'm like super competitive with myself. And so I don't typically like that I have to kind of like mold what pace I'm going and how long of breaks we're taking. I kind of am selfish in that way. So this is like a really big challenge for me to kind of work together with somebody for the longest distance I've ever tried and he's ever tried to go. So I'm really excited for that. And then also, yeah, seeing the beautiful terrain of Arizona. I had not spent much time in Arizona until I started with Aravaipa last year. And somehow it found a way into my heart, even though, as the rest of the Aravaipa staff will tell you, I've had some rough Arizona experiences between rattlesnakes and my timing tents, getting stuck cars in like sandy washes when it's like 110 degrees. I could hate Arizona, but somehow I still really love it. So in a sick way, I'm excited to kind of experience that heat, and just prove that like the heat isn't like can get through it if you right. I'm most nervous about is just that I am wildly unqualified to do a 250-mile race. And so I don't know what to expect, but I feel like I'm kind of trying to use that as an advantage, because I don't think about all the things like I obviously know you hallucinate when you get to a certain point, but I wouldn't have thought of all those things that Annie mentioned, because I have not had that experience for myself. So I think I'm trying to put blinders on to a lot of the challenges that might arise and just sort of like I have a basic plan in place, but kind of troubleshoot and just claw my way to the end. So I'm nervous that I don't know how bad it's going to get, but I'm sure that whatever comes up, we can handle it. So yeah.
That ignorance might be bliss, Morgan. So
that's what I'm thinking. That's what people have told me, the same as I was mentioning before to you guys, like studying the course to a T. I don't ever do that because I get really in my head about, can I do that climb? Can I make it? I don't know. Have I prepared enough? And so, yeah, like I want a basic understanding of what I'm getting myself into. But yeah, I definitely try to be dumb a little bit on the full extent of the misery I'm about to put myself in. So, yeah.
I definitely have not memorized the exact course profile to the number of climbs and where it's all at. I mean, I have a general idea, but like you, I definitely haven't got that all memorized, and I'm not planning to. So we're gonna see how it goes. I'm super excited to be out there with all of you, and I'm hoping that we get to share some miles and some fun conversations. And yeah, thanks so much for coming on. It's been super fun to chat with you, and I can't wait till 2.5 weeks when we get to be together in person at the race.
Thank you, Brianna.
So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
That was fun. Learned a lot.
Yeah.
I'm excited to meet you all
Me
in
too.
person.
Same. Definitely.
Yeah. Same
See
here.
you guys in less than 3 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.